the first teachers or independent educators through crowdfunding and really new possibilities of compared with traditional investment, having opportunities to, even if it's only a small application dedicated to their class or school, who knows, other schools might adopt this, or one big company one day might come along and wants to buy your application or what you've built. So I think the big ones are still dominant and are going to be dominant. On the other hand, or on the other end of the scale, I think it's more democratic, more open, that also when you are not the computer scientist, the engineer, what the big angel investors or even VCs, the founding team, they want to see and they want to put their money in, you can also do something as a small individual educator, whether this is on Kickstarter, or I think for education, Indiegogo, and I mean EduQuest has a partnership with Indiegogo, but I think they are more focused on this. And there are definitely opportunities, or maybe you want to attend, maybe even take part in a Startup Weekend EDU. They are really showing some growth, and you can at least learn how to present your project, and you can see whether you can motivate other people who a coder or don't know designer and then work with you on something. So I think 2012 has been the year, and increasingly 2013. If people really want to do something, they also can. So all those, yeah.
The most compelling companies we've talked to over the last year and a half have been those that are founded by an educator who has a vision and maybe a bit of technical savvy, but finds the right partners to then sort of bring their vision to reality. And the focus is the education, not sort of shoehorning a technical solution into a problem that may or may not exist. These teachers come out of education with an actual problem they want to solve, and then they look for technical ways to do it. That's pretty key. I just talked with a company recently. They coincidentally, of course, there was the recent shootings in Newtown, Connecticut. But this company, Share with 911, they've been working on this for a couple of years, but it's founded by a first responder. And he had been a first responder for many, many years. And he said, look, there's not enough communication happening between schools in a situation and those first responders. There's no way to get information easily, and the minutes or even several minutes that it can take to coordinate services and get people in to address a problem, that's the entire Newtown, Connecticut shooting was over in 5 minutes. And so every second counts. So he said, let's figure something out. So he finds a guy who knows how to do this, and they build out an application that allows teachers to share in real time, empowers teachers to do some great things in terms of making something happen. They've solved a problem, and they've used technology for it. The problem came first. The technology came second.
And I think that brings us to some of our predictions for and our outlook for 2013. And yes, I think those sad and tragic happenings in Newtown, I think what we are going to see is a school security arms race, whether this might be in the context of training teachers on weapons, or much better what you said, somebody in the situation seeing where the problem actually is, that the crucial thing was time, and building an application to really solve the problem, because I think guns cannot solve the problem that schools and the teachers are faced with in protecting the children then.
Well, and no matter how many teachers you're training, it will be very difficult for the spate of shootings we've had here in the United States, whether in movie theaters or at malls or at schools. these people are well armed. They're wearing tactical gear. A single teacher with some bravado and a weekend's training with weapons is not going to be able to stop them. They're going to create a larger issue, and being able to deal with this more smartly and proactively rather than reactively, and just creating even more violence, I think probably makes a whole lot of sense. And most security experts you're talking to, the knee-jerk reaction is, arm the teachers. You want to keep the kids safe? Arm them. And that's, especially for Americans, we have our Second Amendment here, and that is that's a pretty easy knee-jerk reaction. But a moment's thought, there's a lot of solutions. Some of them technical, some of them non-technical, but I think that there are some powerful roles for technology in doing this smartly in ways that don't turn our schools into prisons, both to keep people out and keep people in. And I think you're right. There will be this arms race, and the challenge will be getting people to come up with really innovative, effective solutions, and not simply have armed guards at every door, or razor wire, or video surveillance with infrared. I mean, it's
Yeah, here in Europe, so we know that you have your Second Amendment, and for us, the mentality is really difficult to follow how guns should make the country, the schools, safer. And we sort of look at this with really some, not really understanding the motivation, and it seems to be a little bit short-sighted. Yes, maybe the first reaction, hand out guns so that everybody is safer. But as you pointed out, when you think about it, that's totally counterproductive. But on the other hand, probably you read the story as well of this father building the helicopter, the drone flying over his son on his way to the bus station. And so whether these might be applications of surveillance, monitoring something, I think you're right. We are going to see a lot of more efforts in one or the other sense connected to security, and I would probably extend this personal health and health education as well, as one of the other big stories was obesity and what we can do. And with all those analytics and all the studies of being healthier, fit, keeps you motivated, you feel better, and so on, there are less and less justifications of being, I simply want to be lazy, and sort of this whole us being, whether these might be children or even adults, teachers, parents, being more monitored by some sort of device is probably definitely going to happen. And it's for your own good. So who doesn't want to...
It's hard when you start thinking, all of a sudden there's this nanny state, and yet, if some surveillance technology that we have can make us safer, or if some reasonable technology that we have can provide us with feedback about our habits, or our learning can be truly adaptive because it analyzes, how we go about doing things. I mean, yes, you are conceding something there, but you're getting something really big in return. I've argued this about Google for years. Yes, I do give up a fair amount in terms of privacy when I use Google services and when I truly embrace them as I do. But I get back a lot, and I do it in a fully informed, consensual way. That people need to understand what they're doing and getting into, just as a school needs to understand what true video surveillance means in terms of privacy. But they also need to understand what the benefit is. And if even if it's simply, gym classes, you get students hooked up to some sort of monitor, and they can really understand what the effects that their weight or their physical fitness may have on their heart. Well, that seems like not a bad idea. They've got an app to track things they do, pedometers that hook up to their computers, and all of a sudden, there's cool things to do here that don't have to be massively invasive, but can still make people healthier, safer, smarter. Sometimes the mind boggles at the things that we aren't doing. And I had a security expert point out, as we were talking about the Newtown shootings, we have cameras and databases and computers of the yin-yang that can identify stolen cars as they come through, or cars registered to sex offenders, cars registered to people with weapons permits, people with various convictions, and all that can happen in real time as someone drives into a school into a school setting and immediately be flagged. Police can be called automatically. Things can happen very quickly if we have the right technology in place. And again, it's not terribly invasive. It's using data that already exists and using these sort of big data approaches, and just technology that's been there for a while now. It just hasn't been embraced.
I agree, and then of course it's the big question. We already see that in our social lives, or maybe social life online, Facebook, in the end now also Instagram towards the end of the year. What we pay with our data, you and I don't know how many people actually and actively think about it or then care about it. We make educated decisions, yes, and if we say, okay, I share this with a service, I always evaluate what is my return, and if the return is bigger, I feel good about it. But I know that it's probably, as soon as it's out there, it is more or less public. So even though the companies, I hope, take good care of my data and it's anonymous in some ways at least, and but we will see. And I think talking about, so coming to education again, talking about the MOOCs and first tendencies there, I think in 2013 it could actually, if they are not careful with that and they have those huge amounts of data of their 150,000 students taking a class, and what are they going to do with it? Especially getting pressure from investors, maybe, and so on. So getting into this freemium and privacy trap, like some of the big social networks or services have encountered this year, is quite of a risk, I think.
I agree with you. The temptation is there. As these providers know exactly what their students are doing, what they have surfaced on their computers, if they're engaged, if they're not engaged, how fast they type, what else they're surfing for. It's very easy to collect a whole lot of data. And again, many students in these courses don't realize that or think about it. And you're right. As investors start pushing for returns on things which are sort of inherently charitable, without a very different sort of business model, the temptation will be to start monetizing, and you're going to start seeing typing tutors for those students who type in their chats slowly, and the students who hit too many fingers are going to see diet pills advertised because their fingers are too chubby. It's all conjecture again, but the possibility is certainly there for it to turn evil, and so far. Google, their "Don't Be Evil" slogan, they've made some privacy screw-ups. They've certainly done some things they shouldn't. They've gotten some hot water with some governments, but yet there's nothing that they've done they've done things that are stupid and the result of an inexperienced business, not necessarily something that is evil, I don't think. But again, we've got a whole lot of very inexperienced business people now running these services. Will they have the cojones to sort of stand up and say, no, we're going to provide the service, and here's how we're going to do it? So it's a hard thing to say no to the investors who are paying your bills.
And I agree with you. Whether we talk about consumer internet in general or specifically about education, in neither of the two we had that really big story that shook up so many people that there was actually a scandal. I mean, it's the tech people now, and we are discussing this, and of course some other people, so we are definitely not alone, but it's not like average Joe or not even the average teacher. I think you pointed out this very correctly at the beginning, that we are talking about stuff they don't think about or they don't relate to, yeah.
Well, and I also think, you know, that's a nice place to wrap up as we think about 2013 is really, I think that we're going to see an increasing level of savvy and knowledge among teachers. Teachers are going to begin thinking about this sort of thing because it will simply be more naturally a part of what they do and what they're expected to do. It's so far, technology, yes, it filtered into the classroom, but it could be largely ignored if you wanted to ignore it. Not so much going forward. And I think we're pretty much to a point where, especially, you know, once you hit 6th, 7th grade, and then certainly into college, this is what it is. And especially the university level, I think the teachers who choose not to use Blackboard or whatever LMS is there, and teachers who don't take emails from their students, or what, I think those days are pretty well behind us.